this name Spencer, where that name's come from. And who is this person coming tonight to tell you to vote for the PNM? People of Speyside, it is your own relative, your own people. For those of you who are old enough and will remember Latimer, that's my grandfather. My father came from this very village of Speyside. So I am no stranger to you. But I want to speak to you tonight about the representation or the non-representation of your member of parliament for Tobago East. And I want to ask you before we go on, are you satisfied with the representation that you would have received over the past 5 years? Were you represented at all? Okay. Well, let me explain this to you tonight. There are a number of reasons why you were not represented, and you will hear a number of them tonight from myself and from the speakers coming after me. You see, in 2010, the candidate came to you and put a proposal before you, which you bought, and you elected that representative. Some of the promises were simple things like the Roxborough Police Station, fire station in Roxborough, programs for young adolescent mothers, program for women, social programs, community programs. Did you receive any of these, Speyside? So, your representative went down to Trinidad and was blindsided. Yes, I heard it from the crowd, and that's the real truth. You see, we all know the truth. We know that the UNC is not interested in Tobago affairs. The UNC is not interested in Tobagonians. And therefore, what the UNC did with your representative is to give her a credit card and send her shopping. And therefore, your representative have no time with you because your representative was drowning in the dainties of the UNC. Let me tell you something. You, the people of Speyside, the responsibility is on you. This is not a time to joke. This is not a time to stay home. But this is a time to come out and ensure that people like these are not put back into office. Let me tell you how they disguise this thing on you. They were sending back the representative before you again. But they realized that the people of Tobago were looking at them. So they changed the faces and the name, but the modus operandi is still the same. The intention is still the same, not to represent you. They come in different forms. I want you to recognize them as I point them out to you. Some come to you as TOP forwards. Some come to you as TOP backwards. Some come to you as independent Watson Duke. All are slaves of the UNC. The UNC workers. Their plan is to come and steal your vote again and give it to the UNC. Speyside, make no mistake. Do not make that mistake again. Come September 7th, vote for the PNM. I want to lay a few issues with you concerning the reasons why they were easily led astray. Because it was like the blind leading the blind. And we know when the blind is leading the blind, everybody going to fall in the ditch. Let's look at what the government has been doing. Trinidad and Tobago is in the darkest state that it ever was. Our country is in trouble, Speyside people. What is supposed to be going down is going up. And what is supposed to be going up is going down. Let us look, for instance, at corruption. When we look at the issue of corruption, within the past 5 years, our ratings in the world went, we are in the first 10. Yes. When we look at immoralities in public life, where in the world that within the space of a couple of years, a government would have fired the most ministers in the history of any government. So we are blatantly seeing that they do not have the capacity to manage Trinidad and Tobago. They do not have the capacity to govern Trinidad and Tobago. You remember when the PNM was in office under the situation of crime, that the PNM would have recognized the need to have the offshore patrol vessels to curtail the influx of drugs, arms, and ammunition into our country. UNC got into power. And although we had members of our Coast Guard and our military service under training with the British to operate these vessels, UNC scrapped the program. You all remember Brigadier Peter Joseph, head of the anti-crime unit. What the UNC did when they came into power, they fired the brigadier and dissolved the anti-crime unit. They came and they met a no-nonsense police officer, ACP James Philbert, a person that I know personally, and I could tell you that he was one of the greatest commissioners that passed through Trinidad and Tobago. And what they did, terminate his contract before its completion, fired him. You remember the blimp? Speyside, do you remember the blimp? Yes, that is an equipment, a modern day equipment, crime initiative fighting surveillance unit that cost the government of Trinidad and Tobago $15 million US. When the UNC got into power, they sold the blimp for 50,000. Now, these are some of the issues. And to add to all of that, when they would have done the firing, they went and they bring commissioners here from Canada. People who do not know about the culture or anything about Trinidad and Tobago to deal with the issue of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Who does not know that crime is a cultural situation? Crime is a society situation. And how do you bring a stranger to deal with that? Well, this is what the Prime Minister did. When they recognized that somewhere midterm in the contract of these two men, you remember them? A fella Dwayne Gibbs and a fella Iwaski? Yes, easily the government paid them $2.5 million and slip tax easy like that down the drain. And when they finish, to fool you, the people, to say that they're treating with crime, what they did, call a state of emergency, temporary state of emergency, and start to lock up left, right, and center with no information. Because the units and the systems that were in place to gather information, they mash it up. And then they just start to lock up left, right, and center. No one convicted in court. Nobody convicted in court. Nobody charged for any offense. Men are now suing the government and it's your taxpayers' dollars had to pay again. Now tell me something. Is this a sign of anybody that can manage a country? So we need to do something about that. And we need to do it now. You know why we need to do it now? Because now is the right time. And now we have the right leader. So tonight, I want to endorse to you, the people of Speyside, a man of integrity, a man, a no-nonsense man, a man who is serious about the people of Trinidad and Tobago. He is serious about the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. Because, you know, we can look at his track record. Sitting in Parliament under the very said PNM, when he saw things were not going the way in which it's supposed to go, he stood up. He stood up and indicated that this is not the way this should be. Knowing fully well that the possibility exists that he could lose his ministerial role, he could lose his position in Parliament. But then what he did, he stood up for the right thing. And he took the pressure. He took the pressure from his peers all them years. And now, the right time for the right leader for this country is now. And introduce him to you as no stranger, because he is has Tobagonian roots, Tobagonian parentage. So I am endorsing to you tonight that Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley should be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And you, the people of Speyside, you have to play a very important role in ensuring that Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley arrive at that position. Tonight, I also want to introduce to you and endorse a dynamic young woman, a young woman of integrity, a young woman of beauty, a young woman of class, a young woman that would have served all of Tobago, a young woman who had the opportunity to make a life for herself abroad. But instead, she chose to return to Tobago, to serve the people of Tobago, to serve Tobago. And she have been doing that in the division of community development and culture as a coordinator. And I know some of you in Speyside can say the same thing, can share the same views, because walking around in my electoral district of Belgarden Goodwood, some of the elderly women, some of the younger women, some of the youths, you know, they are happy. They can stand up and boast. So one lady said to me, Mr. Spencer, look at my foot. You see the sandals? I make it. You know who caused that to happen? I come into the name just now. Take your time. Yes, I met another young man. He said, you know, today I can do air conditioning and refrigeration. Another one, I can do electrical. So you have somebody that already was serving all the communities of Tobago. So that is an indicator of a servant leader. Somebody that you can trust. Somebody that you know that would not sell you out. Somebody that would not leave you. Somebody that will return to you and represent you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking of no other but your next parliamentary representative for Tobago East, Mrs. Iana Webster-Roy. In 2013, Speyside, we came to you and we asked you to defend Tobago, to defend your island. You defended your island by indicating a resounding 12-0 victory. Tonight, I am calling on you to defend both island and country. Let us, this generation, go down in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, that we are the ones that would have saved Trinidad and Tobago, that would have taken Trinidad and Tobago out of the depths that it went down, taken down there by the UNC government. Let it be recorded in the history that is this generation that would have saved Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I want to tell you one more thing before you leave. Before I leave, the UNC, we saw what they spent the last 5 years doing. They sent the Minister for Tobago e-shopping. They gave the Minister for Tobago West a portfolio. One, to destroy the Tobago House of Assembly and to build a new ministry called the Ministry of Tobago Development. Now I want to explain this to you. Those of you who are employed in the Tobago House of Assembly, could you imagine that there is no assembly? Can you imagine that? Okay, well, this is what the UNC wants to do, and this is what they were attempting to do. Because there it is, instead of the ministers in Tobago take care of the issues that falls to them under the schedule, what they're doing, they form the Ministry of Tobago Development. And everything that the Tobago House of Assembly is supposed to do in every division, that is what they are lining up themselves to do, wasting taxpayers' money. When the $2.5 million that Mr. Delmon Baker boasts that he spent to buy radio, GPS radios for the fishermen, you know what that caused the fishermen? To have a false sense of security. That you go out into the sea, you have a GPS radio, but you alone know where you are. So any danger that you're in, you're still lost at sea. And what he is advising them to do is to stay away from the programs that the Division of Agriculture, Marine Resource and Fisheries is rolling out. Anything that we decide to bring to the fishermen, what we do, we call them to a training, and we teach them to use the equipment, and then we give it to them. And then in the training, we explain to them how it should be used. I was in Belgarden a couple weeks ago, and I met a fisherman trying to teach another fisherman how to use the GPS radio. So he has it for the past months, and he just goes to sea with it, but he doesn't know how to use it. And this is the kind of people that were placed there to manage the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. They do not have the capacity. Do not let them fool you in their different colors, shapes, and sizes now. They are coming to do the same thing, to sell out to the UNC. Because we can't be friends for the past 5 years. I eating and drinking from you for the past 5 years, and all of a sudden we are no friend again. It's not like that. That is to fool you, the people of Speyside. So I said, don't be fooled. I vote for any one of these people. The TOP forward, the TOP backwards, the Watson Duke is a vote for the UNC. Do not waste your vote. Place your X by the balize. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Come September 7th, make no mistake. Do not make any joke about it. Do not stay at home. Rise up early. Say a prayer. Get something to eat. Go down to the poll and vote for the Pnm. Put your X by the balize. Vote Ayana Webster-Roy for the development of your future, your children's future. Vote Ayanna Webster-Roy to be your next representative for Tobago East. Vote that Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley can be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And when the night of September 7th, and we would have heard the result, that PNM in victorious in Tobago, victorious in Trinidad, then we will all shout with one voice and rejoice. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.
We ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready. The Red Army coming down. We ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready. Come and join the battalion. If you really want to take Tobago, then the government must go restore decency to governance, show corruption, zero tolerance. We ready.
PNM people, how you feeling? PNM people, how we feeling? Just heard, of course, from Mr. Spencer. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. And I think he reminded us what this election is about. This election, ladies and gentlemen, is about representation, about electing the person who you want to send in the parliament, because you can't go there to speak on your behalf, to improve your quality of life, not to go to Trinidad to bad talk you, not to bad talk the people at Tobago and say we are children of Soweto, we wrapping children in foil paper because you don't know that thermal blanket they're using in the hospital. So you want to ensure you elect a representative, sure that the things that you need to improve the quality of life are there, and not go to Trinidad and end up at the police station that was on its way, stop that. The Coast Guard base in Charleville that was on its way, stop that. All of those things is what they were supposed to do. They go there and they stop it. The reality is that your representative is supposed to ensure that the budget that comes from the central government is improved, so that the additional facilities that we want at Speyside High School, we could get it. And not go to Trinidad and say, no, don't give them no more money, they don't deserve it. There's no way you're electing. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen of Speyside, PNM people, when you elect a young lady like Ayanna Webster-Roy, who has worked in the community all across Tobago, you know that you are guaranteed that because of her track record and because of what we stand for in the People National Movement, you will get representation in Trinidad. Let me, of course, recognize the Deputy Chief Secretary and your Assemblywoman, Ms. Tracy Davidson Celestine. You know, when I stand up here, I kind of jealous. I say, but Tobago East have it nice. They're going to have a good-looking representative in the parliament, like Ayanna Webster-Roy, and they have a good-looking representative in the Tobago House Assembly, like Ms. Tracy Davidson. Well, you have it nice. You see good. Look nice, lady, for all you. And they're not only good-looking, but they are full of energy. They're passionate. They're visionary, and they're committed to their community, and that is what the PNM does bring to the table. We ain't bringing no rekeseke, no pick up side. That 1 year later we had to get rid of them and tell you, well, you know, that is leadership. We had to fire them. No, that's not how we just operate. We just bring you people of class, people of commitment, and that is what you're just getting in our representatives, and that is what you're going to get in Miss Ayanna Webster-Roy. So PNM people, how are you feeling? I ain't here in the rhythm section, man. PNM people, how you feeling? All right. Let me bring now to the podium the secretary with responsibility for infrastructure and public utilities, a gentleman who is also holding on as the interim representative for Roxborough de la Fall, and of course a gentleman who has ensured picking up the mantle in works that has laid by Hilton Wilkinson, and making sure that he working now too. Let me invite, ladies and gentlemen, to address you, Councillor Gary Melville.
We ready, the Red Army coming down. We ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready. Come and join truly care about the nation. For PNM for this election, ready, we ready.
Thank you, Mr. Cadet. Thank you very much, Mr. Cadet. Give Mr. Cadet a round of applause. Give him a good Speyside welcome. Coming all the way from Canaan, Bon Accord. Let him understand the kind of hospitality that we have in Tobago East, that we have in Speyside. Let me recognize the Deputy Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly and your representative, the representative for Speyside, Partuver, and Sumi, Mrs. Tracy Davidson Celestine. Let me, of course, also recognize the representative for Belgarden Goodwood, the Assistant Secretary in the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing, and the Environment, Mr. Hayden Spencer, who was so passionate. And of course, the lady of the moment, the candidate, the PNM's candidate for Tobago East for the 2015 general election. And we know come September 7th, the next member of parliament for Tobago East, Mrs. Ayana Webster-Roy. People of Speyside, I am very pleased to be here this evening, and especially because today in the Tobago House of Assembly, in our plenary session, we had a motion to discuss the sargassum problem, the seaweed problem. And to a man, every speaker would have commented on the attitude of the people of Speyside and complimented the people of Speyside for how they would have handled such a terrible situation. Those of us who would have come here during that time know the kind of smell that was around and know the problems that people had. And we really praised and complimented the people of Speyside for how they treated with that situation. And I say this to tell you that we have every confidence that the people of Speyside are reasonable people, intelligent people, sensible people who will do the right thing. And we come here tonight asking you to do the right thing. On September 7th, this country goes to the polls to elect 41 members of parliament, 41 representatives. And out of that 41 representatives would be what the group with the majority would form the next government of Trinidad and Tobago. It's a general election to form the next government of Trinidad and Tobago, to form the next central government. So when we go to vote on September 7th, we are going to vote for the things that the central government can do for us in Tobago. It is not a Tobago House of Assembly election. Don't make anybody fool you. Don't make anybody come to you and talk to you about things that the assembly has not done or that the assembly didn't do for you or didn't get for you yet and so on. We will deal with those things when that time comes. But for now, September 7th, we are dealing with a general election and we are seeking to elect the best government for Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Spencer would have spoken to you. He would have told you about the many things about the UNC government led by Kamla Prasad Bissessa that they have done to this country of Trinidad and Tobago for the past 5 years. Never before in the history of this country has so much money been spent by any government. And for most of us in Trinidad and Tobago, when we look around us, we don't understand where that money could have gone, how it could have been spent, because we're not seeing the benefits for it. And at this point in time, as we speak, those who know about economics and the economy are worried and concerned about what is going to happen in this country in the next few months or the next year, because this government has mismanaged the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not the only thing that they have mismanaged. They have even mismanaged themselves. Never before in the history of this country has the level of corruption that has been bandied about, that you hear about in the newspaper, that people have been accused of, Never before in the history of this country have we had that level of allegations of corruption. And ladies and gentlemen, people of Speyside, most of the times when you look at what is alleged, it makes sense to you that something went wrong. So many people have been hired in this country in the last 5 years that were not qualified. That were not qualified for the jobs that they were given. Whether it's Reshmi, whether it's persons employed in airport authority, the list goes on. There have been so many times when this country has been found wanting in the last 5 years. Trinidad and Tobago has been an important member of CARICOM from its inception. Trinidad and Tobago is a country that the rest of the region looks up to. Yet, under this government, time after time, we have been embarrassed. Whether it is by the Prime Minister saying in Jamaica that Trinidad is not an ATM machine, whether it is embarrassing the people of St. Lucia when she went there to help them when they had the disaster, time after time, and the people of the Caribbean don't have the level of respect for this country that they once had. If you ask around the Caribbean, the people of the Caribbean, even though they don't live here, want to see the back of this UNC government. So those of us who live here, we're supposed to even want that more. Because as Mr. Spencer would have said, for the last 5 years, we had 2 representatives. Vanilla Allen Toppin in Tobago East, Delmon Baker in Tobago West. We gave them that stewardship for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, we are in an election. Have you seen any one of them around to defend their stewardship, to defend what they did in the last 5 years? Even if they're not running for election again, why aren't we hearing them on a platform? Why aren't we hearing them defending all the accusations? The shopping accusation, the nipple accusation. Why are we not seeing our members of parliament talking about what they did for this island for the 5 years that we gave them our vote? And therefore, these same people come back to you, as Mr. Spencer said, in whatever disguise. The TOP come back as the TOP with the yellow jersey. And the thing that we forget, in 2013 about the house that the leader built that he can't explain. The thing that we forget, and they're hoping that you forget, about the bad representation that they gave us for 5 years, about how they went to Trinidad and time after time embarrassed the people of Tobago. You know what it is like that when you see your MP on television or you hear them on radio, you're frightened because you think that they go and say something stupid or they do something stupid and you're going to feel shame as a Tobagonian. You know how it feels to be in the airport when you see your representative coming and people around laughing because your representative has become a joke. We had 5 years of that. And people of Speyside, the time has come where on September 7th, we have the opportunity to change that. We have the opportunity on September 7th to elect a new government of Trinidad and Tobago, to elect a new member of parliament for Tobago East, a member of parliament that will give us proper representation, a member of parliament that will be able to deliver to Tobago or help Tobago obtain the things that we need to get from a central government. A prison for Tobago. This government came into power and met all the plans there for a prison for Tobago. Tobago young people, when they get into trouble, have to find themselves incarcerated in Trinidad, away from their family, away from all the roots. The assembly allocated land, gave land to the government of Trinidad and Tobago to build a prison. And your MPs for the last 5 years didn't make up a single step in that regard. Police stations. They claim that they built a number of police stations in Trinidad, but we haven't gotten one in Tobago, and we had the plans and the approvals there to build one at Roxborough and Grange. Fire station headquarters. People in Tobago, as we speak, are suffering from lack of water, and we're in August. Because when the government came into power in 2010, there was a commitment to the Hillsborough Dam. And Year after year, they claim they don't have enough money to do it. But they could do a wastewater treatment plant in Beetham and pay a contractor $400 million more than they were supposed to pay. But they couldn't desil the Hillsborough Dam. So now, in Tobago, water truck running all over the road because in the middle of August, our hotels can't get water, our people can't get water in their homes. And all through all of this, our members of parliament have sat there silently. Not once have they stood up in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago to make representation on behalf of the people of Tobago. And that is why we in the PNM, recognizing that this country had lost confidence in the PNM in 2010, the PNM would have reorganized itself and gotten a new leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, who would have brought changes to the party and would have structured the party, created the processes. Since last year, we have been screening for our candidates. Here in Tobago, we would have brought to you a candidate, Ayana Webster-Roy, almost 3 months ago, that she could have walked the communities, met the people, spoken to the people, understand the needs of the people. And we come here tonight to ask you to vote for her on September 7th. We ain't bring cat in bag. We bring somebody that you know. The TOP, on the other hand, selected a candidate 2 weeks ago and expect that the people of Tobago East would vote for that candidate who they don't know. And after all the things that the other two candidates did to us for the last 5 years, reject them out of hand. The Tobago Forwards, which is all we know, which we know is an arm of the TOP, just like Ethiopia, aligned to the United National Congress, seeking to get the votes of Tobagonians to be able to take 2 seats to carry from Miss Kamala to form a government again. To give Trinidad and Tobago 5 more years of pain, 5 more years of corruption, 5 more years of mismanagement, 5 more years of disrespect. We in the PNM say no. We have brought to you the best candidate in the race for Tobago East. We are sure of that, and you are sure of that. We have brought to you the best political leader on offer for this election. A Tobagonian, one of us with the shared values that we have growing up in Tobago, a man with Tobago values, a man of integrity, who will bring back decency to the government in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's what we offer. And that's all that this election is about. This election is about electing the best representative and the best team with the best leader. And we in the PNM offer that. It is not a THA election. Don't let them tell you about the THA. It is not about what PNM did 30 or 40 years ago. It is about what this country needs now. What this country needs now is Dr. Keith Rowley and the PNM. What this country needs now is, what Tobago East needs now is Ayana Webster-Roy. And the story done. You all know what the issues are. As I said before, the people of Speyside are reasonable and intelligent. They know, you know what the issues are. You have sat in this country for the last 5 years and endured the worst government that this country has ever known. We have suffered too long. Change is coming on September 7th. So on September 7th, when you go to the polling station, you will see a list of candidates. I think they have 6 of them. You know what? If you vote for the TOP, you're voting for the UNC and Kamala. If you vote for the Forwards, you're doing the same thing. And if you vote for Watson Duke, you're doing the same thing. You know what? The platform of truth doesn't have a chance of winning any seat or doing anything for you in Tobago, in spite of all Mr. Hotochoi's best interests. And therefore, you have only one choice. Our symbol is clear. It is the Balize. Our candidate is the best on offer and unique. There can be no confusion with her name. There can be no confusion with her likeness. So come September 7th, your job is easy. We are putting it now in your hands. As on the day of September 7th, that you will get up early As Brother Spencer said, say your prayers, eat your breakfast. If you walk into the pool, walk and go there early. If you're driving, drive and get there early. If you're looking for a Pnm car, we gonna have plenty available. Catch one and get there. And when you go there, put your X by the Balize. Put your X by Ayanna Webster-Roy. Elect Ayanna Webster-Roy to the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago on September 7th. And in the process, we will have Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley as the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And all of us in Tobago, and all of us in Trinidad and Tobago, on the night of September 7th, can say with joy, great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Trinidad and Tobago has been saved, and we are in good hands. I thank you very much, people of Speyside.
One in the east, one in the west. Good representation, keep it the best. Ayanna, PNM champa. Ayanna, PNM champa. Ayanna.
Thank you, Councillor Gary Melville. The PNM people, let's give him a round of applause again. Remember, this election is about representation. You want to elect the next representative in the parliament. And when we look at the candidates on offer, we have Ayanna Webster-Roy, track record working in the community, providing programs for you in the community. We have a gentleman saying he's on offer as an independent, but he's saying to you that he wants the 2020 and he will be the Prime Minister. He ain't focused on representing you. He don't want to be the Prime Minister already. That's not what you want. You want this thing is about representing you. You are electing a representative. You know, we're not here to offer you whether Ayanna will be the Minister of Community Development or any minister at all. We are introducing Ayanna to be your representative to see about your business. So when Mr. Duke tell you about 2020 and the tie and he go break the tie to be Prime Minister, he ain't concerned about you. He ain't concerned about you. He ain't concerned about you. We have somebody else from a party that blue now. Blue is my favorite color, but like I gotta change my mind now. Where were they? They were part of that whole cabal that had we feeling pain for years. They don't want to come and tell you they care about you. When they wasn't given the YES program, no money. When they wasn't given the financial assistance program that could send young Tobagonians off to university, they was giving it no money. Where was them? Where they were? Where was the forwards? Where was it? All of them. They were part of that. And then we have the TPT. Nice young lady. I work with her. But the thing about this parliament, this thing called the parliament and the member of parliament, is that when Ayanna goes to parliament, some days the business will be about Tobago, but some days the business will be about Trinidad and Tobago, and some days the business will be about the region. And therefore, you want to send somebody to Trinidad who could speak on all of those things. You don't want to send somebody on TPT telling you about Tobago. It's not only about Tobago. A member of parliament must be able to speak on Tobago. They must be able to speak on Trinidad and Tobago. The only other issues will come to them. And therefore, you want somebody who could speak and give your perspective, give your views as the people of Tobago, the people of Tobago East, and you'll be confident that we represent you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are confident in the PNM that when we offer Ayanna Webster-Roy, that she, because of who she is and her track record, but because of what this PNM offers to the people over the years, that you will be well representative in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, I want to bring to you this evening. Come on, PNM people, let me start to make some noise. Well, we got a false start there. You got a false start there. You know the rules now, so when you false start, you're out the race. But anyhow, I am going to bring to you your current representative in the Tobago House of Assembly, the Deputy Chief Secretary, and the Secretary with responsibility to tourism and transportation, the indefatigable, beautiful, visionary, committed, always outspoken, well-spoken, Miss Tracy Davidson Celestine.
And in this crowd was singing loud, going to the convention. When we walk in, big spin and ting, oh Lord, what a session. In the hand was a plan and it started to jam. He hit them bam, bam, bam. Somebody say you got to like the man, he had a touch for every William. Hallelujah. We ain't making no dosage mistake. Hallelujah. What the opposition gets, they will take. Hallelujah.
Thank you very much, Mr. DJ. People of Speyside, how are we feeling? Pnm people, how are we feeling? Thank you very much for your show of support and for your commitment night after night as we continue to traverse the length and breadth of villages, introducing our very beautiful candidates, and most importantly, spreading the message of the People's National Movement. Permit me to recognize in our midst my colleagues, Secretary with responsibilities for Education, Youth Affairs and Sport, Assemblyman Huey Cadet, who is doing very well in terms of chairing this program. Also, the Secretary with responsibilities for infrastructure and public utilities, Councillor Gary Melville. I must recognize the campaign manager, Tobago East, is somewhere around. And last but by no means least, our candidate for 2015, Mrs. Ayana Webster-Roy, and our MP come September 7th, 2015. You, our supporters, residents of Speyside, a pleasant good evening is extended to each and every one of you. Oh, how can I forget? How can I forget the Assistant Secretary with responsibilities for fishery in the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs and the Environment, my brother, Assemblyman Hayden Spencer. Thank you very much for that reminder. Ladies and gentlemen, I, like all the other speakers, stand here to endorse the candidacy of Mrs. Ayana Webster-Roy. And she's a young lady who I am sure most of us by now know very well, and who is no stranger to the community of Speyside. She heads the unit in the Division of Community Development and Culture, known as the Community Development Department, and she has been working with village councils throughout the length and breadth of Tobago, trying to ensure that they have the appropriate management structure and that they are able to implement programs on behalf of the development of the communities. And I know that she has tried over the years with the village council here in Speyside. I have seen how well Mrs. Ayana has responded to the criticisms on the campaign trail. And most importantly, I have seen how determined she is to climb the hills and valleys to meet the people so that at the end of the day, she can interact with them and understand their needs and their desires so that she can have in her mind a proper picture to represent all of us when she goes down to Trinidad. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, residents of Speyside, the position that Mrs. Roy is vying for is no easy one. And I tell you that this is in fact a Herculean task. When you look at Tobago East spans from Charlottesville all the way down to Rockley, all the way down to Bagatelle, goes back over to Lansemy, and then comes back out. And I know that
But at the end of the day, she will do us very well in terms of representation. Ladies and gentlemen, I am also certain that you know of her family. You know of the values that they hold, because her father was a principal, and I'm sure teacher as well, in this community of Speyside. And you have seen how he would have interacted with the community. You have seen how he would have interacted with the school. And I'm sure some of those values, most of those values, would have been passed on in the parenting. But people of Speyside, I want to tell you that this election is very crucial, and that regardless of your political affiliation, you have to come out and give support to Mrs. Ayanna Webster-Roy, and most importantly, the People's National Movement. Those of you who are over in Lucy Vale and who may have voted the TOP over the years, I'm saying tonight, you have to vote for restoring stability. And most importantly, you have to restoring good governance in this country. This is what it is all about in this election 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us are very worried and very concerned about the state of the economy at this time. And I am thinking that we are heading for a serious recession, because all the signs are very clear. Look at how the price of oil has fallen drastically from 100 US dollars a barrel to well under 40 US dollars per barrel to date. And I say this because I know with certainty that Trinidad and Tobago is receiving less funding than it usually does as a result of the fall in the oil prices. But the United National Congress and the People's Partnership continues to spend as though monies are going out of style. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we have to ensure that we pay attention, and that come September 7, 2015, we vote them out. And I ask you to pay attention to what is happening in other Caribbean territories. They have been over the years putting systems and structures in place to deal with the fallout from the oil prices. But to date, we have not heard a word from the Prime Minister, nor the UNC, or the People's Partnership in terms of how they intend to manage this economy. And that is why going forward, that is why going beyond September 7, 2015, we need strong and visionary leadership. And we can only find that in Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, Ayanna Webster-Roy, and the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I always take the opportunity to remind you that all the other parties will come to you saying all sorts of things to you. I consider it to be banter. Some of them will come running in the days, coming up, trying to infiltrate the blocks at night, trying to tell you that they will represent you on a one-man ticket in Parliament. But I say to you, tell them that in the history of this country, we have seen no independent representation to date in Parliament unless you are appointed by the President of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, some will come to you, such as the forwards, making you feel as though something is wrong with CPEP and the URP. But tell them that it was under the People's National Movement would have implemented URP and CPEP in order to raise the standard of living of women and to empower them, ladies and gentlemen. And so we have to ask, what really is the true state of this country? We have to ask which is the party that can ensure that we will be governed in a proper way come September 2015. we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we want for our children and our children's children? And if we are to answer those questions very logically, it will only be the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister has shown us time and time again that she is not concerned with governance. She has shown us time and time again that she is not concerned about the management of the country, because it's the first time in the history of this country that I hear a Prime Minister goes to work only on the weekends. What happens to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? And then whenever she goes on the weekends, it is for half day, ladies and gentlemen. And so we have to find someone who can work with us, who can work overnight to manage this country. And we see that passion and that commitment coming from Dr. Keith Rowley. We have seen how over 60% of our public funds are spent only in one part of this country. We have seen what is taking place down in Caroni, the Ministry of Sport, the Children's Hospital, all of them constructed by the UNC and the People's Partnership in Central Trinidad. We have seen all of the different types of gate and how they have been playing out in this country and impacting on all of us. It started from the Reshmi Gate, and now you're hearing one of the reasons why the Prime Minister appointed her in the first place without qualifications. Jack Warner said it, not me. I have no courthouse clothes. We saw how shopping topping played out in this country. She got a credit card and she used that credit card to pay for all sorts of things that were not official. And we saw Section 34 gate. We saw the email gate. We heard of the Delmon and the Nibbling gate. And more recently, we have heard of the weed gate and even the prison gate. All of them being major scandals in this country. And so for me, it was like drama. It was a never-ending movie because well over 25 ministers have been fired. All institutions have lost their credibility. Even Integrity Commission, which I had so much respect for, has lost its objectivity and has lost its credibility just because of the Prime Minister and the People's Partnership. And then we saw how the Prime Minister and the former Attorney General awarding themselves silk, ladies and gentlemen. And so in this community, in all of Tobago East and all of Tobago, we have not felt the effects of any proper representation. And that is why we are saying to you today that if you want representation, vote Ayanna Webster-Roy, vote Dr. Keith Rowley, vote the People's National Movement. We are no better off today with water. We are no better off today with regards public transport. We are no better off with regards to the infrastructure, and you have heard it time and time again. What has become of our police station? What has become of our fire stations? Are those officers comfortable? Can they discharge their duties in a comfortable environment? And the answer has to be no. So when they don't show up when you have a crime, don't blame the Tobago House of Assembly. Blame Vanilla Allen Toppin. Blame Delmon Baker, who was the representative for Tobago West. Blame Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bassessa, the UNC, the People's Partnership, and the TOP. And also blame the Forwards leader, Chrislyn Moore. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. The alliance is falling apart. The top is now split in three. So we have Forwards, we have the TOP, and we have Watson Duke. The Congress of the People has turned into the Congress of the Person. And the UNC has two branches, the ILCP and also the UNC. Ladies and gentlemen, residents of this community, Jack Warner warned us. Bazio Pandey, they tell us this story. And he has said that she is no leader. Patrick Manning had warned us when he came with the big plans, showing a very big house and asking several questions. I remember that very well. They are the ones who know her, and we have all been warned. Gypsy has said it very nicely. Don't vote Kamala. What more do we want? And so that has to be one of our key messages tonight. That has to be the mantra going forward, that we must reject the TOP. We must reject the forwards. We must reject Watson Duke, because the vote for any one of those parties is a vote for Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC. And so I remind all of you tonight that we have to see the big picture. We have to know that this election is about governance. We have to know that this election is about management of the country. We want to restore good values. We want to restore democracy. We want to build back all of our institutions that were supposed to treat with integrity and objectivity, ladies and gentlemen. And so going forward, we have to elect someone who is passionate. People in Lucy Vale, we have to elect Dr. Keith Rowley. People in Top Hill Speyside, we have to elect Mrs. Ayanna Webster-Roy. People in Scheme Speyside, we have to elect the People's National Movement, because we are about ensuring that Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago is well developed. And we are about ensuring that we can chart the course for your generation and for this current generation and for future generation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that the catalyst for change and further development of your country can only come if we are to receive autonomy. And the autonomy that I speak of can significantly change the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago at this time. And this is a contract between the Tobagonians and Trinidadians in terms of how we relate to one another and in terms of the things that Tobago has the authority to treat with. We are asking for more funding from the national budget, 8%. Currently, we get a minimum of 4.03%. We are asking for the autonomy to treat with borrowing, whether it be at the national level or the international level. And you would have seen how we were taken to court because we are an ambitious administration, and we wanted to ensure that we build buildings for divisions, because currently we are renting. And because we took that step, we were taken to court by the People's Partnership and the UNC administration. But we won the case. And today, when you're driving down to the airport, you will see the fruits of that effort. You will see the results of those labors. And I am sure most of, if not all of you, will be invited to the opening of the Agriculture Head Office sometime soon. Ladies and gentlemen, I must remind you that the People's National Movement has a plan. I must remind you that is the People's National Movement who would have ensured that we have early childhood education, free primary school education, free secondary school education, and free tertiary level education. And you know something? Since the People's Partnership Administration has come into office, it has become by far more difficult to access gate for us people to pursue free education in this country. So they have tried to tighten all of the systems in a particular way so that that free access can be hampered with as much as possible. But we have a plan for this country. You have seen it in the Vision 2020, and now we are looking towards Vision 2030 and Vision 2040. We are looking at how we can develop our public transportation system in an effective and meaningful way that can meet your needs. We are saying to you, the people of Speyside, that we will work with the Tobago House of Assembly to support tourism. We are saying that we will work with you, the people in the communities, to support community development. We are saying that we will work with the women, we will work with the youth, we will work with the senior citizens to ensure that we enjoy a fruitful and blessed Trinidad and Tobago. And so with this, Speyside has benefited from the labors of the PNM over the years. It was the People's National Movement who would have built the Speyside High School for today. And today we are seeing how that school churns out intelligent young people, people coming out with full certificates, moving on to sixth form, and then eventually to the University of the West Indies. It was the People's National Movement who conceptualized the idea to bring Jazz Festival to your community. And we have seen how the Jazz Festival has transformed the community of Speyside in that particular period. You had well over 15,000 and 11,000 persons respectively over the last 2 years. It was the People's National Movement who built this esplanade. I remember some years ago when there used to be garbage and that kind of thing piled up here, ladies and gentlemen. It was the People's National Movement who built your community center over there. And I am sure that going forward, with Ayanna Webster-Roy as that Tobago East candidate, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley as the leader, Tracy Davidson Celestine as your area representative, we will come to receive more benefits and more improvements for this particular community. So I say to you, vote wisely. Speyside, this is about your future. This is about your children's future. This is about management of an economy. This is about governance. This is not about a retaining wall, as you would have heard from the secretary with responsibilities for agriculture, infrastructure, and public utilities. This is not about street lights and something and working and you want better work. This is not about that. This is voting to ensure that this country does not go into recession come September 7, 2015. And so it is the People's National Movement that has developed this country, and we will continue to develop Tobago come September 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, as you have heard from the Assistant Secretary in the Division of Marine Affairs and the Environment, and even the Secretary of Infrastructure and Public Utilities, wake up very early. Wake up your spouse. Call your brothers. Call your sisters. For those of you who have girlfriends and grannies and grandparents, nieces and nephews, call them out early. And all of you go down to the polls as a family. And when you get to the poll, you vote solidly and only for the People's National Movement. And then on the night of September 7, 2015, we will all be singing to one refrain. Great is the People's National Movement. Great is the voices of Tobagonians. We will and we would have taken Tobago East and Tobago West. I thank you and all the best.
Sleeping time. Oh, sleeping time. I was in the laboratory when somebody showed me him. Somebody said that I'm up today. The boss could take care of them. And in this crowd was singing loud, going to the convention. When we walk in, big spin and ting, oh Lord, what a session. In the hand was a plan and he start to jam. He hit them bam, bam, bam. Somebody say you got to like the man.
Thank you. PNM people, you've heard from your representative in the Tobago House of Assembly. Let's give her another round of applause. I want to bring for you now the lady of the moment, your next representative, someone who we know will work with the Tobago House of Assembly to ensure that your own Speyside High School, we talk some education story. This Speyside High School has produced a young lady in its art competition who won in its art classes, who won an art competition hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That picture that she did now hangs in the United Nations, right where this Speyside High School. Right here in this Speyside High School. Your own mantas will be representing Tobago in the secondary schools Premier League starting next 2 weeks. That's right, your own mantas. And therefore, you want to ensure that you elect a representative to the Tobago House, to the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, who will ensure that the budget that the Division of Education gets can continue to support your own Speyside High School and ensure the kinds of things necessary, the additional lab, increasing the library. Those are the things they want there. But we ain't had the funding to do it because they're short paying we. But we know when we go send Ayana to Parliament, she will ensure that the Tobago House of Assembly gets the kind of funding that it needs. So ladies and gentlemen, PNM people, Speyside people, let us welcome to the microphone Miss Ayana Webster-Roy, your candidate, our candidate, next representative for Tobago is Ayana Webster-Roy.
Champa, Oyana, PNM Champa, Oyana, PNM Champa, Oyana, PNM Champa. One in the east, one in the west, good representation.
Speyside, I love the vibes. We're looking red and ready. Red and ready, Speyside. Permit me to give recognition to your area representative, Deputy Chief Secretary, hard-working Assemblyman Tracy Davidson Celestin, my caretaker area representative in my hometown, hard-working, dedicated Councillor Gary Melville. My area representative in the village where I now live, a friendly, hardworking, lovable man, Assemblyman Hayden Spencer. And my friend, a hardworking man in the Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sport, Assemblyman Huey Cadet. Brothers and sisters of Speyside, I was troubled this morning when I saw a Newsday report that stated some 40% of Tobagonians might not vote in the September 7th general elections. I was troubled because 40% of Tobagonians have decided to endorse the current regime.
Brothers and sisters, the act of not voting is in itself an action. It is in fact a passive endorsement of the status quo. It shows that 40% of our neighbors, brothers, sisters, parents are indeed so comfortable with the current state of affairs, they choose not to go out and attempt to change it. They choose not to go out and vote against the Minister of Tourism, who looked at the seaweed issue as a minor inconvenience, while so many guest houses and hotels in Speyside suffered financially because of it. Speyside, it shows that 40% of Tobagonians have decided to ignore the atrocities of the Kamla Persad-Bissessor UNC regime and the partnership government. Brothers and sisters, lest you forget and repeat the past mistake of May 2010, permit me to remind the 40% why they should go out and vote. Permit me to remind those of you present and listening on air why we should never, ever again place our trust and our hopes in the hands of a Kamla Persad-Bissessor-led government. Let me remind you, just like I reminded the people of Delaford, why we should go out and vote against this government and all their minions who are presenting themselves in all colors, forms, and symbols. Speyside, do you remember the unjustified state of emergency imposed on the people of this country? Our economy suffered because of this move, Speyside. I want you, and I want the 40% and all the undecided to remember those 8,000 persons arrested during the state of emergency. They were arrested without any proper evidence to lay charges. I want you to remember the names of all those government ministers linked to assassination plots, especially those names being fearfully linked to the murder of that well-loved senior counsel. Speyside, you must remember. I want you, and I want the 40%, and I want all the undecided to remember Section 34. Yes, you must remember. I want you to remember the repeated attempts to undermine several of the independent institutions that protect our fundamental rights and freedoms as citizens. Speyside, I want you to remember that their fiscal policies or lack thereof resulted in the downgrade of our national economy by international credit rating agency Moody's. Speyside, you must not forget their blatant attempt to alter the Constitution to secure electoral advantage. And you must not forget how poorly the world viewed us under their watch. Brothers and sisters of Speyside, we have a very poor rating on the Corruption Perception Index. Imagine the world is looking at us in scorn. But most of our brothers and sisters, I want you, I want the 40%, I want all the undecideds to remember the disrespect and disregard meted out to the Tobago House of Assembly under that Kamla Persad-Bissessor regime. I want you to remember how in their attempt to frustrate the Tobago House of Assembly, they punished Tobagonians. I want you to remember the thousands of CPEP and URP workers who could have ended up on the breadline when they tried to withhold $100 million from the Tobago House of Assembly. I want you to remember, because too many people tend to forget. It is imperative that you remember. And all the undecided remember. And the 40% remember. Because if you forget, we are doomed to repeat the mistake of May 2010, brothers and sisters. If you forget, we are doomed to eat the bitter fruits of a Kamala Prasad Bissesa government for 5 more years. Brothers and sisters, this election is about choice, and you have to make an informed choice. You will be choosing an individual to represent your interest in the parliament, someone to lead this nation, and a party to form the next government as we look towards a very uncertain future. This evening, brothers and sisters, I want you to understand why your best and only choice is the People's National Movement. I want you to understand and appreciate the fact that Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley is the best and only choice for Prime Minister of this great nation. I want you to understand and believe that your PNM candidate, Ayanna Webster-Roy, is the best and only choice to be your representative in the next parliament. Brothers and sisters of Speyside, I want to share the message I just gave the people of Delaford, because it is a timely message that you and the 40% deserve to hear. This message will help you make an informed choice, and I know that choice will be the People's National Movement. Brothers and sisters, the PNM is the best party suited to form the next government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And you know why, brothers and sisters? It's because the People's National Movement has delivered Trinidad and Tobago from a colonial backwater and took us straight to Republican status. We became a modern, progressive, industrialized, stable, and democratic country because of the vision of the People's National Movement. Every other political party that has temporarily assumed office in this country has made no lasting impression or substantial improvement in the life of our citizens. Brothers and sisters, over the last 59 years, only the People's National Movement has had the resilience and commitment to stay the course in and out of government and to accept the will of the people. And on each occasion, we have been tested. We put our shoulders to the wheel and emerge stronger and better equipped to serve you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters, under the People's National Movement and through the vision of our leaders like Dr. Eric Williams and all the successive PNM leaders, brothers and sisters, we have seen remarkable change in our country. The noble institution called the Tobago House of Assembly was delivered to the Tobago under a PNM government. I'd like to tell you that is not so, but otherwise, brothers and sisters. It was a PNM majority that supported the passage of the Tobago House of Assembly. Under the PNM, our country became the economic powerhouse of the Caribbean. And it was through the vision of successive PNM leaders and governments that our economy grew. Brothers and sisters, as Mrs. Celestine said, the PNM gave us free education, opening our minds, broadening our horizons, and giving us so many possibilities and opportunities. That faithful institution in Roxborough, delivered by the PNM. That high school right across there, producing stalwarts, delivered by the PNM. Brothers and sisters, housing, delivered by the PNM. Free healthcare, delivered by the People's National Movement. Yes, brothers and sisters, the PNM laid the foundation and has made the most contribution to the social and economic development of our nation. I know a lot of people love the late, great A.N.R. Robinson, but a lot of you remember that Mr. Robinson was a product of the People's National Movement. He came from within the People's National Movement. He left the party in 1970. But brothers and sisters, it is instructive for you to note that when he had the chance to form the next government in the 1818 situation of 2001, Mr. Robinson entrusted our nation, our future, in the hands of a PNM leader and a PNM government. That is fact. That is truth. That is history, brothers and sisters. So go and tell the jokers on the TOP platform and the Forwards platform and all the mocking pretenders that PNM was more Robbie and Robbie was more PNM because he came from within this party. So brothers and sisters, now that I've laid out the institution, tell me which party you're voting for. What is the party of your choice? Brothers and sisters, let me now turn my attention to options for leader and prime minister. On one hand, we have Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, the self-proclaimed senior counsel. Yes, she gave herself silk. On the other hand, we have our intellect, our Tobago boy, our own Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Brothers and sisters, Dr. Rowley contributed to 49 motions, 32 bills, and served on 9 committees over the last 5 years. You know what the Prime Minister did? She contributed to a paltry 14 motions, 13 bills, and I hear she only served on 1 committee. And she won 5 more years, please. While Dr. Rowley shoulders responsibility, we know of Mrs. Bissessar's habit of blaming others when things go wrong. Dr. Rowley always insists on standards and professional ethics, while Mrs. Bissessar has an anything goes mentality and compromises standards. Our Dr. Rowley is sincere, sober-minded, and reflective, while the leader of the partner sinking ship is deceptive, impulsive, and unstable. But Speyside, I want to take the analysis a little bit further. I want to show you the true Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Although her campaign strategists want to create the impression that she's holier than thou, Miss Prim and Proper, can't mash hands, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you the real Kamla Persad-Bissessar, leader of the UNC partnership government. I want to highlight some of her more popular character traits. Brothers and sisters, she is biased, not my words. Lincoln Myers, former minister under the National Alliance for Reconstruction, said, "We can no longer trust Kamla with this country's future." He accused her of elevating partisan interests above that of the state and its citizens and fostering ethnic polarization. He concluded, not me, he concluded, "Kamla, you must go." She is unscrupulous, Speyside. Former planning minister under Kamla Persad-Bissessar, Mrs. Mary King, chair of the Caribbean Regional Chapter of the Global Organization of Parliamentarians Against Corruption, indicated that Kamla must stand down as Prime Minister until her name is cleared in several criminal investigations currently being undertaken by the police. And I'm going to remind you of some of them. Bribery matter involving 2 of a party's financiers, email gate affair, and the best one of all, a plant-like substance found at a private residence. They think we dotish. Brothers and sisters of Speyside, She is deceptive. Our own chief secretary loved to refer to her as the mama of Mama Guy. She has Mama Guy to Begonians on so many occasions. I have personally lost count. Brothers and sisters, best one of all, she is ungrateful. Her former Minister of Community Development, Winston Gypsy Peters, described her as ungrateful, conniving, and dictatorial. Former PM Basdio Pandey, Jack Warner, and Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, mind you, all of them work with her. They were all her friends. They call her Annie Makram. Yes, that is what they call her. We in Tobago know only too well about her ungratefulness. Just look at how she treated Ashford Jack and the TOP with the THA elections of 2013. As soon as she realized he was losing, she took off quick into jet plane and speed off to Trinidad. She didn't even have the courtesy to wait for the count to be completed. I am sure some of you will recall that prior to 2013 THA election, they used to be up and down Tobago, parading with Ashford Jack, walking and talking as if he was chief secretary already. They had several cabinet meetings and big anniversary rallies in Tobago. Since the sweet cocktail of 2013, when last they had a cabinet meeting here? When last they come here to Mama Guy earlier? All right. Many TOP recommended persons lose their board appointments and others were fired from their jobs. And you know what? Some of them was just too ashamed to talk and they pretend that they're still supporting her. I could go on in a space that I can't go on, but I know, you know, who is the best choice of Prime Minister. Who is the best choice of Prime Minister? Who is the best choice of Prime Minister? Speyside. Speyside. This lady, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, cannot be trusted, and she should not be allowed another 5 more years to further destroy our nation. Speyside, I want us to now evaluate representation. I want you to be able to decide if Ayanna Webster-Roy is the best choice for you. Brothers and sisters, I hear my opponents saying that Ayanna too quiet. Ayanna can't make noise for us in Parliament. But brothers and sisters, I'm a woman of principle and a praying woman. My Bible tells me in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 18, a hot-tempered man stirs up dissension, but a patient man calms a quarrel. James chapter 1, verse 19 to 20 goes on to instruct me and all of us that everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. As a wife, Speyside, as a mother, I have often seen where a gentle approach, empathy, and the ability to negotiate and compromise bring about quick results. I know what I'm telling you. Tried it many times. Brothers and sisters of Speyside, I don't have to be loud and act like a jamet to bring effective representation to the people of Tobago East. God forbid, Speyside, God forbid, if a certain competitor in this race for Tobago East gets into Parliament, I can just see that person being expelled quick after the first sitting. Brothers and sisters, and then you all will really know what poor representation is about. When I come and speak to you, Speyside, I speak to you with authority. Speyside, as I told the people in Delaford, put some coins in a cup, put some $100 bills in a cup. Shake both of them. The coins gonna make a real noise, but you know what? The $100 bill still have real value, more value. Speyside, when I speak to you with authority. And more importantly, I always endeavor to make sense Speyside. I try not to speak foolishness on the platform, just to whip you up in a frenzy. When I choose to act Speyside, my actions are well thought out and guided by principles and values because I come from solid and strong parenting. Brothers and sisters of Speyside, that is the type of person you want to be your representative. Someone who will remember you after the hype of the campaign. Someone who will remain grounded, humble, loyal, sincere, committed, and hardworking Speyside. Someone who is not using you to fulfill an agenda of the People's Partnership Government. Someone who's not going to use you for their own personal gain, Speyside. You need someone with a proven track record of service and representation. Mrs. Celestine spoke about my track record of service. And if you walk Speyside, members of the Village Council and the Senior Citizens Group will speak to you about my service to people. Brothers and sisters, this was not by chance. I am a people person. I measure my success not by the things I achieve, but by the number of lives that I touch, and I touch positively Speyside. Speyside, I want you now to understand why I am coming to you as a team and why I could boast that what puts me above all the rest is that I am coming to you as a strong Pnm team, Speyside. A strong Pnm team with a solid plan and a vision for our nation. We in the Pnm envisage a society where integrity and morality in public life is of the highest priority. Speyside, we the 41 candidates of Team Pnm are committed to forming a government that serves the public good above all else. Speyside, we will form a government that will make decisions for you, not make decisions against you. Brothers and sisters, Team Pnm will deliver internal self-government to the people of Tobago. Because, brothers and sisters, Team Pnm understands that with the right constitutional, legislative, and administrative framework, more will be done to facilitate sustainable and meaningful social and economic development that will redound to the benefit of each and every Tobagonian. Yes, Team Pnm understands. Team Pnm will invest in housing and support housing programs proposed by the Tobago House of Assembly. We know how important that is to all of Tobago. Team Pnm will address the issue of crime by dealing with matters of national security as a matter of urgency. Yes, Team Pnm will. We will protect our fisher folk and our maritime interests by investing in the right equipment and facilities for our servicemen and women. Team Pnm, Speyside, Team Pnm will deliver a spanking new international airport. So when visitors come here, they get a good first impression. Yes, Team Pnm will deliver. And you know what? Better than that, Team Pnm will improve the inter-island transportation system by reviewing the management and operation of the air bridge and developing a new ferry service coming out of Toco, where hourly ferry service will run between Tobago and Trinidad. So Speyside people, no more 4 o'clock in the morning to go on the port. Better service coming, better days ahead. Brothers and sisters, I am riled up and happy this evening because I am part of Team Pnm, Who you voting for Speyside? Who you voting for Speyside? Are you red and ready like Team Pnm Speyside? Brothers and sisters, if you're red and ready, and if you're supporting Team Pnm, I urge you to go out and mobilize the forces. I urge you to go out and connect with that 40%. I urge you to go out and speak to the undecided. Brothers and sisters, Team Pnm is the best team, and we are going to make a difference. Brothers and sisters, I don't want to just win, you know. I want us to give them a clean sweep. When we were in Market Square, I heard an old man bawling 41-0. Let us work towards 41-0 Speyside. Tell your brothers and sisters in Trinidad, your friends and your family, the People's National Movement is the only choice. Tell them, brothers and sisters, Team Pnm will deliver our nation. Brothers and sisters, ensure that you go out on election day. Tell them to put the X right by the balisé. Brothers and sisters, if we do that, if we operate with faith in God, and we convince the undecided, we convert the 40%, come the night of September 7th, when the last ballot is counted, and Ayana Webster-Roy is declared in Tobago East, and Shamfa Kojo is declared in Tobago West, and all of Trinidad is painted red, brothers and sisters. We will sing a song of praise. Great is the Pnm. Great is this institution called the People's National Movement. Great is the Pnm, and we shall always prevail. Thank you, Speyside.
Come and join the battalion. If you really want to Tobago, then the government must go restore decent city governance, show corruption, zero tolerance. We ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready. The red army coming down, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready, we ready. Come and join the battalion. Undeniably the best around. More than 50 years we going strong. If we truly care about it.
PNM people, we ready and we ready. PNM people, we ready and we ready. You have heard from the candidate, our candidate, and your next representative. Let's get a round of applause again for Ms. Ayana Webster-Roy. What can we say? Class, vision, commitment. You've heard it all tonight. We want to thank, of course, all the persons who came out, or PNM persons who came out to support us here this evening, our meeting here in Speyside, our meeting at Delaford. We, of course, want to thank the persons who were instrumental in setting up this evening. Of course, all our speakers this evening, your own representative, Ms. Tracy Davidson Celesting, Mr. Hayden Spencer, and of course, Mr. Gary Melville. Thank you. We want to, of course, ladies and gentlemen, just announce the PNM caravan rolls into the amphitheater at the new Scarborough Library tomorrow evening at 4:30 for the Women's Forum. Come out and hear, of course, Ayana and Shamfa, and of course, Dr. Keats Rowley's wife, Sharon, as she comes on the women platform tomorrow evening. Come out and support them. Come again as we spread the message and remind you that this election is about representation, about ensuring that you get the right person in the right place in Parliament. This election is about restoring governance and good governance to Trinidad and Tobago, restoring the respect we have for this country. That is what this election is about, ladies and gentlemen. So don't be fooled by those who want to distract you with all kinds of sight. This election is about voting for the person who will speak on your behalf in the Parliament. I want to share one last thing before we close. Give me 2 minutes there, rhythm section. Give me 2 minutes there. I want to share something. As the Secretary for Education, I'm sure we have all gotten our books and our new bag and swanky new shoes for our children. Not yet. Well, we better get it. But I want to say, as we're getting all them new books and the new bag and they're going off to new schools or new classes, ensure that you keep in mind that when your children go out to school on September 8th, give your children a new sense of hope by voting for Ayana for Parliament, Keith Rowley for Prime Minister, and the PNM in central government. Give your children a sense of hope. Don't send them back out to school in new uniform, new book bag, and the people who lead in this country is jokers. We can't have that. Time for a change and put back, put Ayana as your representative, the PNM in central government, and the right leader in the right time in the person of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. PNM people, we want to thank you for coming out this evening. The people of Speyside who have listened to us, we want to thank you. As we roll out this message, as we continue, we're going to vote them out on September 7th. And when all of that we have done, we will say all together in one loud voice, great is the PNM, great is the PNM. And once again, it has prevailed. I thank you, the people of Speyside. God bless and good evening.
Public have to blame. We are so change of government. Now they taking every cent. Cost of living is very high. The rich will live and the poor will die. I said to vote for the PNM. Tell you give your vote to the PNM. If any government to solve this problem, if no one else but the PNM. I tell you vote for the PNM. I tell you give your vote to the PNM. If any government to solve this problem, if no one else but the PNM. I tell you vote for the PNM. I tell you give your vote to the PNM. If any government to solve this problem, is no one else but the PNM. I tell you vote for the PNM. I tell you give your vote to the PNM. If any government to solve this problem, is no one else but the PNM. Forward with PNM, we on top. Forward with PNM, we on top.